Welcome back. Today we're going to shine light into one of the concepts that once we internalize and understand and integrate, the rest of this workbook is going to be a reminder, a practice. So with a lot of eagerness, let us open up to what this lesson is pointing at. Lesson 13 says, "A meaningless world engenders fear." And the first two lines here say that this is another form of the preceding days, with exception that this one is more specific to the emotion that is aroused. And that is the key. The emotion that is aroused is the key to understanding all of this workbook. And we've been going one day at a time, preparing ourselves, practicing each day so that we stop attending to the world and we go into that emotion that's aroused. That emotion is what we're here to understand. That emotion engenders a lot of confusion. That emotion engenders a lot of fear. Now imagine, well, you don't have to imagine. Now you can start to see when we feel these feelings, we're going to think according to that feeling. And we're going to color the world with ideas, with images. We're going to endow the world with attributes that it does not possess. We're going to crowd the world with images that do not exist. Just like in the movie Inside Out, if we're experiencing a felt sense of sadness, all that arises in the mental emotional field are going to be in alignment with the feeling of sadness. If we are ultimately feeling this discomfort that is non-ending until we understand it, this feeling we're going to notice as a feeling of lack. This lack of something is what I'm here to feel. And I'm here to feel it because I want to learn to discern. This is what is ultimately meaningless. This is it. This is what I'm here to understand. And if you can see it in that way, we start to shine away. We start to walk away from self-judgment and from judging the world. And through lack of judgment and through accepting that we've been feeling this way, we're going to open to understanding why we feel this way. And this whole workbook, the whole correction process, is to help us correct the perception that we are lacking the attributes of life. That's what we're here to see clearly. I'm making a deliberate choice to augment this lesson with 2 more segments. And if this turns out to be a video that's longer than the rest, please know it's intentional and deliberate, because once we truly understand the first 13, 14 lessons of this workbook, the rest of the lessons are simply going to be a reminder to apply what we're understanding in every dimension of our life. And we're going to continue to see more clearly our deepest essence. So I want to take time to unpack what I just said. First of all, let's talk about how that emotional arousal, that felt sense energy, can show up in our lives. And it can show up in so many different sneaky ways, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna cover 3 different ways in which it has shown up for me in sneaky ways, just so that you see if you feel this in your own lived experience. The first one I want to highlight is that it can sneak up in any mild irritation, like I am slightly hungry and irritated, I am slightly sleepy or a lot sleepy, I don't feel well, I am frustrated, upset with a situation like that. Those very justifiable human experiences. There's the felt sense energy. This is what we covered yesterday with the practice that we're learning to separate what interpretations the mind has made and it has confused, has mistaken those interpretations for like an ultimate truth that is out there. So this is why it's important for us to see these interpretations, understand that if we're not aware of them, they're going to generate more ideas in alignment, congruent, similar, in similar energy. That this is why it's so relevant for us to have that clarity. So that's one example. Mild irritation in any form that's justifiable. Even if it's justifiable, we are going to start to discern, oh, this is just a mild irritation, and be very vigilant with what the mind continues to proliferate internally based on that interpretation. So that's one thing. Then two more ways that it shows up in sneaky ways in my lived experience is anytime there is even the slightest feeling that something important is missing or something important is being taken away. There's so much richness in discerning when we're perceiving something important is missing, something important is being taken away. And we can have an entire book on how this manifests in relational dynamics, especially relational wounding, when there has been trust that has been broken between two people and there is a sense of a lack of safety, lack of freedom, lack of understanding. In all of these relational wounding, relational healing dynamics, one of or both of the people involved are going to feel there's something important that's missing or there's something important that's being taken away. If we can truly understand that feeling as this is an emotional arousal that's happening within me, that it's inviting me to see what interpretation my mind is making and go to the interpretation and witness it without fear, we would be so far advanced in how to relate to ourselves and to others with wisdom and clarity and less trauma. Honestly, and it's taken me more than 10 years practicing with all of the techniques of communication, of empathy that are very well grounded and are pointing in the right direction. But there's a deeper layer that once we see clearly, it's going to make things a lot easier. So those are the three high-level categories that I wanted to add so that we truly pay attention to that emotion that's aroused. And notice, is it a slight irritation for any justifiable reason, human experience? That's fine. We're all going to have it. Just notice the interpretation that comes out of it, because the interpretation is going to be in alignment with that feeling. That is the core of why it is important for us to recognize that emotional arousal, because it will proliferate based on that energy. And that is why I felt it's worthy to augment this video with more details. So that's one of the segments. Then, as we always do, the best way to integrate anything is through our direct experience, our direct practice. So let us go ahead and read the exercise prompt together, and let us use everything we've learned for the last 12 days, everything we've learned in lesson 13 to guide us to see these prompts without any fear. I also want to tie in that the word ego has been introduced on this lesson for the first time. So let us tie all of that together. The exercise says that we close our eyes and we repeat the idea for today. So close your eyes, breathe, and repeat the idea in your mind. A meaningless world engenders fear. And then the exercise tells us to open our eyes and look around and repeat the next prompt slowly. It says, as you look around, I am looking at a meaningless world. And by now, we can bring everything we have practiced to this moment, to our awareness. I am looking at a meaningless world. That doesn't confuse us anymore because we have been practicing for 12 days to recognize that we're going beyond our physical eyes. We're learning to turn inward to the field of awareness that can witness arisings in the mental emotional field. And those arisings create interpretations, and those interpretations can create a world out there that appears meaningless. Another way to think of this prompt is I am perceiving a world where fill in the blank is missing, or fill in the blank is being taken away from me, or fill in the blank justifiable rationale. The justifiable rationale is a very human experience. But if we don't know to pause that externalization and go to the felt sense energy, we're never going to be able to witness the greater depth of our essence. And because we want that, we're willing to practice in letting go of the world, going into that felt sense energy. Notice any interpretation that is telling our mind there's a lack of love somewhere. Truly, the lack of love is in the way that we have interpreted. Not out of ill will, out of pure innocence, out of lack of greater awareness of our deepest essence. And everyone is doing it. No need to be afraid, no need to judge. We simply accept an interpretation that is meaningless. And we start to recognize this is what I'm here to understand. This meaningless interpretation doesn't feel good. That's that emotional arousal. That is what I'm here to understand and bring love and kindness and acceptance without fear to that emotion. So the next statement is also very helpful. It says, repeat the statement to yourself as you look around, then close your eyes and conclude, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think that I'm in competition with God. Now, this is where we have so much practice in recognizing if there is an emotional arousal that comes up when we hear or read that we might be in competition with God. And whatever emotional arousal is there, notice the interpretation, and learn to accept that emotional arousal and that interpretation, accept it without fear. Like we mentioned in one of the early lessons, we can't apply these lessons in one area of our life, but then for another area, we're like, no, we can't apply it there. That we could do it, but the process, the whole unfolding, is to apply it everywhere. So if there is an emotional arousal that shows up either with the word ego or with the word God, we're going to learn to witness it without fear. We're going to accept this is what's arising right now in the mental emotional field. And there are interpretations that are being made. And I'm here to see that clearly. In my own journey inward, I have to say that anytime that I have felt anxiety for any reason, including sharing these lessons with everybody, when I feel that felt sense, that emotional arousal, if I look deeply, I think that I am in competition with God. Who? The ego, the part of me that feels separate from the whole. And that is the whole process. That part of me can't be separate from the whole by definition, because we're all united in the field of love and wisdom and greater awareness. And so my job is to, without fear, recognize when that happens. And it's like, oh, it's actually a relief to know a part of my unconscious mind has thought that I'm separate from love, separate from God, separate from peace, separate from freedom. I want to know that. I want to see it so that it becomes conscious. And now I can see more clearly what my unconscious mind was holding. And I do that without judging myself or without judging others. And that is how we unfold in the path. So if this video was longer than the rest, it was very intentional, because I feel that once we truly grasp this concept of going to the emotion, accept that it's there without fear, notice the interpretation, and open to bringing kindness and love to that part of us that was perceiving a lack of any kind, we're going to become more and more aware of the truth that we're actually not separate from those attributes. So thank you so much for your practice. Thank you so much for your courage, for your willingness to take this journey inward. I will see you next time for lesson 14.